million nanometers long. A red blood cell is 7,500 nanometers long. And DNA is 2.5 nanometers long. That's small.
Nanomedicine is medicine performed at an extremely small level, working with particles that are so tiny you could fit 5,000 of them around a single human hair. Also make great advances in regenerative medicine by using appropriate nanostructures to repair human cells, tissues, skin, bones, or organs.
And these nanoparticles can be administered systemically, and they can go around and deliver a drug. Now, what I just described, in fact, is nothing new. That product was approved in 1994. It's called Doxil. They can go around the body, circulate under the radar of the immune system, find nanoparticles that can circulate around the body, find disease, deliver the drug to the disease, and then change their fluorescence spectrum so they light up to tell you where the disease is, and they report back when the drug was delivered.
I explained how the Alien Invader Force, AIF, have instructed the controllers, the alien hybrids of the first generation, who run the show here on Earth, taking direct orders from monkeys San Marduk, and their minions, the power many people call the Illuminati, the global elite, the powers that be. Taking orders from the controllers, to recently add nanobots to the chemtrails, vaccines, certain prescription drugs, and so on. In order to prepare humanity to serve the AIF agenda, they need for us to already have thousands, perhaps millions, of synthetic nanobots in our biological system as we rapidly approach and arrive at the singularity, and the controllers are making sure we get these bots in our blood system one way or another. If the area where you live is being sprayed with chemtrails, you are breathing in these nanobots. There is no way to avoid that. I have them in my bloodstream, and you might have them in yours, too. If you see chemtrails in the sky, take vaccines, or certain prescription drugs, particularly pain medication and psychiatric drugs. Nanobots have many functions. They work as antennas, which means they are both receivers and transmitters of information when activated. Those in charge of this project can thus retrieve information from our endocrine system, but they can also alter the functions of the endocrine system as they please. This will be particularly important as the singularity approaches. And it won't be long now. The goal is to have the singularity in place by 2045. Another function that the nanobots will have is to eventually replace the cells in our body. The singularists want the cells in our organs to be replaced with this nano-sized artificial intelligence, AI. For example, if a person is old, and his or her organs begin to fail, younger cells from this organ will be retrieved, and the old, failing organ will be replaced by an entirely new organ, and if a person needs a heart transplant, as one example, the new heart will be as young and vital as it was when the person was in his or her 20s or early 30s. The plan is to replace all our organs this way and thus give us synthetic, eternal life. Before we get too excited, there is a serious catch to this agenda. The new organs will not consist of organic cells but of synthetic nanobots that can keep the organs young forever. The person will remain in his or her 20s or 30s, the person's choice, for an eternity. At that point, they have become the definition of a cyborg, half human and half machine. The human part is the soul/mind/spirit body that will occupy these cyborgs, who will look just as you and I do but will consist of nanobots rather than human cells. According to the controllers and their minions, there will be no death post-singularity because those in charge will make sure that if something were to fail in the body they can rejuvenate that part of the body. In the extension, people who are part of the singularity. The new cyborg species, whom I call post-humans. A term coined by Dr. Ray Kurzweil, who is one of the AI prophets working for the controllers, will be able to rejuvenate their own physical bodies. In the near future, the synthetic nanobots in our system will be the key to keeping us trapped in the third-dimensional reality forever because cyborg bodies can't die. This also means that the soul, mind, spirit body can't leave this cyborg, and they will be stuck here and controlled by a superbrain computer, SBC, which is ultimately run by the overlords, the AIF. humanity will become a hive mind, which is much easier to control than 7 billion individuals, who are prone to being quite unpredictable and difficult to control. Possibly, the great majority of humankind will become stuck in the singularity. We, as a human soul group, are rapidly heading toward the singularity as of this writing in August of 2016. Unless people wake up to this fact and stop choosing to being addicted to electronics, they will inevitably be caught in the singularity. There would be no way around it. The singularity will be the end of Homo sapiens sapiens, who will be replaced by a post-human species, a cyborg race and a hive mind, living in a virtual reality world that will be controlled by the overlords. This virtual reality will eventually make post-humans into super soldiers because the AIF is building a legion of space-faring foot soldiers to attack their number one enemy, the Orion Empire. In summary, this is what the singularists have in mind for us. And smartphones and nanobots are the cornerstones in this agenda. To learn more, I urge the reader to also read the book I referred to in the beginning of this article. With the above in mind, how do we get rid of the nanobots that most of us already have in our bloodstream? Unfortunately, it seems as if we can't. Once these nanobots are in our system, they will stay there. For now, they are not activated, at least not in the majority of the population, as far as I know. Although the nanobots can't be removed, there might be a solution to this problem. Albert Einstein once said that a problem cannot be solved on the same level that it was created, and this is no exception. Nanobots are technology on a quantum level, and in order to solve this problem, we need to address this situation on a subquantum or soul level. Universal laws exist. One of the most important of these is the law of free will. The overlords can manipulate us as much as they want, as long as we fall for it and agree to their agenda, which unfortunately, we as a human soul group, have done throughout the eons. However, they need our direct or indirect consent in order to control us. They already have our indirect consent because they are revealing their entire agenda in mainstream media, in movies, and in music, and they are supporting a debate on the subject, because they are well aware that very few people will pick up on it and object. In the meantime, their agenda progresses as usual. The few who protest don't count because they are in the minority. We need a majority of protesters to declare their sovereignty and demand the AIF stop their abuse. Unfortunately, this does not seem to happen. Therefore, humanity is heading directly toward the preordained destiny set up by the overlords. This is called indirect consent. People may read about much of this. And even if they think it sounds crazy, most people just shake their heads and continue with business as usual, hoping it won't happen or that someone else will stop it from happening. Some people might even look forward to the singularity, without realizing what it really is and are too lazy to research it. Instead, they rely on human authorities to decide what is best for everybody. This is where the solution comes into play. The overlords need our consent. So let us choose to refuse. Do not give it to them. We might have nanobots in our system, but we do not want them activated, ever. Moreover, we don't want to have anything to do with the singularity. We need to individually send out a clear intention into the universe. You need to state that you are a sovereign spiritual being, you don't give your consent to have any nanobots activated, and you don't want to be part of the singularity in any way, shape or form. Please send this intention out as a clear, focused, but light thought and let it expand to include the entire universe, so everybody out there can hear it. This is how we communicate with the overlords and anybody else that exists out there in the multiverse. They will hear us, and they will know without a doubt that we refuse to give our consent to become cyborgs. Therefore, the AIF should not be able to proceed with their agenda for us because we clearly declare our refusal to participate. I have no full guarantee that this will work, but it should work. Unless the overlords have ways to manipulate such resistance as well. However, if we send out clear thoughts that emphasize our sovereignty as spiritual beings, that should be accepted. If they go ahead anyway, they are breaking the law of free will, and they don't want to do that because it makes them prone to prosecution in the future from a higher authority, if they get caught. Therefore, I urge everybody who reads this article to send out this intention as soon as possible. Thank you in advance for your participation.
You got questions?
The Nanex, it modifies the actual cell structure of your brain.
Every day there's more people stepping forward, throwing away everything it means to be human.
Right now it's the desperate ones. Convicts, the addicts, the sick, the poor, the ones that fell through the cracks.
The federal prison system is growing out of control, set to bankrupt the whole damn USA. Then Castle rides in on a white horse, says he has a plan to bail us all out and we just fall in line.
The healthcare system is collapsing.
And this time he's pushing for total control over genetic disease. Birth defects no longer an issue. All we gotta do is exchange our cells for the ones he wants to give
Promise
us.
of a longer life and a fatter wallet. I mean, you think people will refuse?
No.
And then the next thing you know, we're all slaves.
Hi, this is Kathy with Lion and the Lamb channel. There is evidence that our DNA is being altered by nanotechnology through the chemtrails. This nanotechnology is also being added to the food and water supply without our consent or knowledge. I would like to present evidence today that shows that this is what they are doing and also give some advice on what we can do about it. This next clip shows that they have the technology to do this, and it is very easy for them.
For thousands of years, humans have bred horses in much the same gradual way nature does. But soon, they could actually be designed in the lab, along with other livestock, plants, and even humans. Because a new technology has made editing the genome almost as easy as using a word processor. Genes are made of DNA, long strings of 4 chemicals, best known by their initials, A, G, C, and T. Together, they form the basis of all life on Earth. This new genome editing technique is so much faster, easier, and more accurate than anything that's come before that it's creating a new paradigm for biological research. It's called CRISPR, which is short for clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats. Here's how it works. Scientists program a guide RNA on a protein called Cas9 with the address of the targeted gene. The guide RNA directs the Cas9 protein to cut both DNA strands precisely at the correct spot, like a molecular scalpel. A new section of DNA is added to the cell and edited into the original DNA sequence, which now incorporates the characteristics of both sequences.
So the next clips I just want to show you of changes that are taking place in people's bodies from the chemtrails and from the food and from the water. They're actually changing our DNA.
Hi everybody, I'm filming a hair and there's something inside of it. I've got this zoomed very close and the brilliant white area is something within the hair. And again, you can see those signaling dots. So there's a bright whatever right within the hair. And you can see that it seems to be made up of those brilliant white dots. That's the actual size 40 times there. Now I'll just, I've sort of just twisted it up to get it on the slide. Look at the dots within the hair. And it doesn't seem to be in all the pieces. What on earth?
The second group of materials found in these environmental samples is unidentifiable fibers. And I really want you to appreciate the meaning of unidentifiable. These fibers have been sent to sophisticated laboratories and there is nothing in the databases that match them. So these are fibers, we could say, that do not exist in nature. People around the world are developing lesions on their skin that ooze and produce fibers. This is known as Morgellons syndrome. Tissue samples cultured from ordinary people without this ailment contain and grow the very same fibers. Here's a 5-inch lesion on a woman's body that has never healed, 5 inches. The fibers or filaments are actually tubules with hollow insides. When these fibers are cultured, they produce colonies of filaments. You can see the extension filaments. And these colonies continue to grow and reproduce, branching out into more filaments and more colonies. The filament cultures can be grown from saliva samples, tissue from the skin, mucus, urine, blood, from animals and people, regardless of the presence of the Morgellons condition. The fibers are segmented with visible structures inside them. So where do these fibers or filaments come from? Airborne environmental samples that were collected by Clifford Carnicom, he is a researcher in this subject, in 2000, the year 2000, gathered at high altitude on a mountain in New Mexico, showed the presence of those fibers whose structure matches exactly the tubular filaments. When I say fibers and filaments, basically interchangeable, showing up in our blood, tissues, and skin. Additionally, the samples collected by Mr. Carnicom showed what he calls, and what's called in biology, desiccated erythrocytes. This is a multisyllabic term, but it means dried red blood cells. So, why these were in the air? Why are dried red blood cells in the air? Very puzzling. A medical microscopist, a biologist specializing in microscopy, confirmed to him that they were human red blood cells, but that they had been engineered in some way so as to be preserved. So again, you have to ask yourself, if I were 5 years old, I would say, Mommy, what are red blood cells doing falling out of the sky? Biology divides life into 3 kingdoms: bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Bacteria and archaea are simple organisms with no subcellular compartments. Eukarya are complex with defined cell compartments and internal organelles, mini organs like mitochondria that make DNA and energy for the cell. Plants, animals, and humans are eukaryotic, as are fungi and slime molds. The archaea are the hardiest of the life forms. They're able to withstand grinding pressure, heat, acidity, and alkalinity. They can live in volcanoes, geysers, and the ice shelf. Bacteria, on the other hand, will die in extreme heat and cold, which is why we cook and freeze our food. Now, the materials appearing within these filaments are as tough as archaea. They look like bacteria, and they self-replicate. One looks like something called mycoplasma, but is not. One looks like chlamydia, but is not. And natural fibers or filaments would be classified as fungal in the domain of eukaryotes. But these fibers contain forms from the other 2 groups inside them. You're looking at a tubular fiber with self-replicating internal elements resembling bacteria and behaving like archaea. That does not happen in the natural world. So what are they? What's going on? It appears that within our bodies we now have all 3 life kingdoms replicating themselves. What does that make us? Are we still eukaryotes, or are we becoming something else? You could call this transbiology, a crossing of biology, the creation of hybrid forms. Materials are forming in our bodies that are not native to us, not natural, and entirely new. You can see in these pictures the tubular filaments with the branches. They're branching off. That's their self-replication. They're creating new colonies. And you can also see in the bottom picture a little bud. That's the beginning of a new fiber. The territory of things on the scale of atoms and molecules is the nano world. Science has opened up the nano universe, where incredible new creations are possible. Nanotechnology explores materials that are less than a micron in size, or from 1 to 100 nanometers. And a nanometer is a billionth, 1/1000th of a meter. Nature and biology continually work on the nanoscale, assembling proteins and building with crystals to conduct the business of life. Spider webs are an example of that. Very fine filaments with enormous strength and flexibility because they contain nanoscale crystals. So let's go back to the filaments and the structures they contain, these ones that Clifford Carnicom has found. In those unidentifiable filaments, he has observed the formation of red blood cells and submicron-sized structures. So now you've got a filament making its own red blood cells. The engineered cells, the red blood, very, very tough, withstanding excesses of heat and chemicals, indicating that they are designed to endure almost anything. He has put them in a Bunsen flame, he has poured bleach on them, acid, and they still endure. In addition, they are able to replicate, growing outside of the body in a petri dish. This is highly sophisticated technology going on by itself, not in a laboratory. So we're witnessing red blood growing outside, having nothing to do with the bone marrow, in a petri dish, in somebody's very low-level lab.
This is a picture of a brain chip formed by nanotechnology. This is not some future technology, but it is being deployed now with signals remotely. Dr. Hildegard Staninger, in the book Global Brain Chips and Messengens, has more information about this technology. I will post a video by her in the description box that goes further into this technology. This is a picture of a camera in someone's eye. You can find these cameras under blacklight. I have these cameras in my eyes. This is being done through the nanotechnology, the programmable nanotechnology. They are adding nanotechnology to the food supply. They are not required to put it on the label that they have nanotechnology in the food. Here is a list of companies that have nanotechnology, and also a list of items that are common for them to put the nanotechnology in. This next video is
gene editing.
Scientists tried editing genes inside someone's body.
Splicing.
They modify them by splicing in DNA from another organism.
And the creation of hybrid species is on the rise. These genetically engineered chimera are just the latest in a long line of unnatural creations to walk the earth. The first to master this forbidden science were the Watchers, otherwise known as ancient aliens, fallen angels, and the gods of old. Demons. These rebellious angels commingled their seed with human DNA and animal DNA. This history is documented in a vast number of ancient texts found on every continent on planet Earth. This commingling resulted in the creation of giants and what we commonly refer to as monsters on every continent on planet Earth. This commingling resulted in the creation of giants and what we commonly refer to as monsters.
and as I sip my soda that I'm sure somebody spit in, I just would like to say to all of you, kiss my ass, you rotten. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go home and put some water in Buck Nasty's mama's dish. Good evening.